Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan, and this is supposed to be a film review podcast from the Eagles' 25-20 win over the Chicago Bears. And there's a lot of really good kind of like nooks and crannies that came out of that game that I look forward to getting into. But Adam, this is going to be a lot more than just a film review pod. Obviously, we have a big injury situation here with the starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts. We've got playoff scenario situation. We have other injuries from both the Eagles and of course it's Cowboys week. So we have all that and one rolled into one nifty little podcast here.
Yeah, and then we have a big announcement for our Patreon subscribers. We just got this. It's just as you said, we sent out the bat signal for somebody and the person took it.
Yeah. Yep, we sent out the bat signal.
Yeah, a Q&A. Oh my God, the heat the Q&A got.
Oh man, we have to discuss that. People are
we have
really
to talk
in their
about
feelings,
that.
Man.
Our Twitter, our ITB Twitter, our mentions. I'm thinking 300 Bear fans came at that our Twitter. It's just crazy. I didn't know anything about it, and I happened to look at our mentions on there this morning. I'm like, what the hell? Or yesterday morning, I'm like, what the hell? What happened here?
Yeah.
And I'm looking through. I'm like, okay. And of course, you'll explain as you know, as you produce it. So you have a great bird's eye view, so to speak, of what their angst was, the Bear fans. But as always, as our friend Ruben Frank would say, sometimes you actually have to read or listen to something before you comment and crush people.
Yes.
But that's another story, which you'll be love to explain. I know. I got kind of a chuckle out of it, but no, it's all good. But yeah, look, this the injury came up with Hurts, which we'll discuss and what we know, and kind of walk you through that. And then Tuesday, by the way, the Eagles issued an addendum to their injury report because there was something that came up, which is disappointing. Yeah, we'll add to that as well.
All right, a lot to talk about. Of course, it's a little bit of a short week. The Eagles will play Saturday night in. Is it Arlington or Fort Worth now? Fort Worth at AT&T Stadium. They'll play the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot on the line, including clinching the NFC East with a win. So we'll get into that a little bit. Obviously, our pregame show will be at 10 a.m. So even though it's a 4:25 start, I believe it is, on Saturday, on Christmas Eve,
correct.
The pregame show with us and Greg Cosell and Jason Avant will begin 10 a.m. as usual. And then the post-game show, we're going to try, listen, it's the holiday, so we're going to try to do it right after the end of the game, get everything in, and then hope everybody enjoys the game, the recap, and then gets back to their holiday celebration. By the way, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas to all that stuff. Happy Kwanzaa, happy holiday season greetings. Hope everyone's having a great time.
For sure.
All right. So as Adam alluded to, we did send out a bat signal for our Patreon subscribers, especially, or specifically, I should say, when Jalen Hurts' injury came about and Gardner Minshew stepping into the spot. We put out the bat signal for John DeFilippo, former Eagles quarterbacks coach. He's also been an NFL offensive coordinator. He was Gardner Minshew's offensive coordinator in 2019 with the Jaguars. So we thought, who better than to really fill us in with a great bonus exclusive podcast than DeFilippo, who could talk about Gardner Minshew. We can even get into the whole quarterbacks having shoulder injuries, which he did, and what it was, what it's like. And then even a little bit of the similarities here with 2017 when he was the quarterbacks coach for Carson Wentz and the Eagles. And they had a late season injury to Carson, of course, they had to deal with. So a lot of really good perspective from John in that emergency podcast. That will push we had planned to do a podcast with a former NFL GM. We're still going to do that. We'll do that in January. This one's going to take the place of that right now. We thought it was more pertinent. And again, if you're not on our platform, our Patreon channel, I would encourage you all to sign up. It's patreon.com/InsideTheBirds, because we really are trying hard to give those paid subscribers something more than extra, as much as we can.
It's something exclusive. I mean, I don't know. When we called John up, we asked him to say, could you do this? And he was aware of what's happening with Minshew and Hurts. Like we've said, every time we do these interviews with former coaches, former executives, you never know what they're going to say. And sometimes like this person, DeFilippo, would have a response to something and it'll jog our memory. So we actually went back to, because I want to know what John, as a quarterback developer, how you get a guy ready. And he had something that's interesting, and he gave a great tip for we'll give you this one little nugget. I'd never heard this before. So apparently, was it Josh McDaniels and Belichick talked about what was it that he said about Belichick and McDaniels about getting somebody ready for a game or something? What was it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to give everything away, but just how they
Yeah.
prepare to get them ready for these
Yeah.
scenarios was sort of a unique way
Yes, it
of
was
going about
fascinating. John, I guess, knew about it, but it was interesting because he's had to get Foles. He told us on our previous Patreon with him about getting Jamarcus Russell ready when he held out his first year,
it. Mm-hmm.
and how that's, by the way, that's where he came up with. If you've ever watched him when he was Eagles quarterbacks coach, he would take Nate Sudfeld out 3 hours before the game and work him out because John thought that was extra hours you would get
Right.
that were not in practice during the week. And they would add up over a series of weeks. If you can get an hour extra per week, that's 16, 17 extra hours a week with a quarterback. That's how you could develop him with the extra time. So, which is really interesting, his perspective on Minshew, which obviously you can't get anywhere else. This is the guy who developed him that year in 2019. And John reminded us, don't forget, Minshew had like 6 or 7 AFC Offensive Rookie of the Week awards, and that's how well he played as a rookie.
Yeah, I thought John also had some really good I don't know, good intel, just like good insight onto how the Eagles offense might look with Gardner Minshew, and not just philosophically, but also schematically and the difference in the run pass ratio compared to the two quarterbacks. Really good stuff there. All right, again, patreon.com/inside the birds. It's well worth it, trust me. All right, couple of transactions that are key for this week, especially for the Eagles. They've activated Dallas Goedert onto the 53. Last week he was activated into the 21-day practice window. He did not play. He was not on the 53. This week they waste no time. They get him onto the 53-man roster, which aligns him to play on Saturday against the Cowboys.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think they would have done it. I was told that he's, it's not like it's 100%, a little tender in the area still, which is probably why he was held out over the past weekend against the Bears. But they're going to need him, and if he's ready to go, I imagine he'll be in there and playing.
Yeah, I mean, so we if you missed our show last Friday, our previous show for the Bears game, we kind of explained the fractured shoulder socket that he had, and it's because it was a very small fracture. Thank goodness for him and the Eagles. Had been a full fracture, you're looking at up to 2 months, and it wasn't because he had a small fracture, and he actually felt good. So I guess you had heard that he was a little bit sore, which is natural. This is his first practice. His first practice for last week.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't waste any time, as you said. On Tuesday, they activated him to the roster. Oh, the other thing is they did have one roster spot open, which you were talking about on our Monday, I think maybe after in our postgame show.
So yeah, I couldn't remember if they had a spot or not. Right.
They did, yeah. So they took up that spot. So yeah, that's a huge transaction. And don't forget, Minshew and Goddard great together against the Jets last year.
Big time connection. 2 touchdowns, I think, of 36 and 25 yards. So obviously, Gardner, if he has to start, he'll be happy to see Dallas Goedert out there. Let's talk about Jalen Hurts and the shoulder, another guy with a shoulder. So here's what we know. All right. And the fans know he's out with a shoulder. He's out of practice right now with a shoulder injury. It is his right throwing shoulder. The Eagles are not ruling him out for Dallas. It sounds, from what we understand, like it's not likely, but you just don't rule the guy out because he does heal well. And he is physically, he's kind of a freak of nature with that body. But the reason why they're not ruling him out or making it sound like it's a long-term thing is because, from what we understand, it's a minor shoulder strain or a low-grade shoulder sprain. I shouldn't say strain, sprain. Yeah, let me correct myself. Low-grade shoulder sprain, which you'll get into in a second, Adam. I just want to add to that, though, that as far as we understand, they were still testing him as of Tuesday, just to continue to get intel and gather. Quentin Michael did a great job on Q&A of talking about this. When you have a shoulder sprain, because he had some as a safety.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get them.
It doesn't just impact your shoulder, your collarbone gets involved there. Your joints are involved, your AC joint and things like that. So as we understand, the Eagles are continuing to test Jalen just to make sure that what they initially saw is correct and that there's not anything else there. So we'll see if anything else results from this testing. But what do you know about like shoulder sprains in particular in their grades?
Yeah, so there's 1, 2, and 3.
Hmm.
One is, I believe, what he has. The low grade. Typically, when you hear low grade, it's grade 1, and this is what I believe. I think John Clark said the same thing. This is basically what I believe. That had this been the playoffs, he would play. Now, as long as there's nothing associated with the sprained right shoulder, as long as there's no damage to the neck, because if you watch that hit, the guy flattened Hurts. I mean, he hit him from the left, and he flattened his right. His right shoulder went into the ground. So you want to make sure through testing there's nothing else going on there. There's nothing associated with it, with the neck in particular, or
Right.
collarbone area.
Right.
Want to make sure. And then I just covering this injury since 2001. A lot of guys will play, a lot of quarterbacks will play, but this is there. I know they'll never say this, but this is the reality of it. They're what 13-1, right?
Yes.
They've got Minshew as on Fonier's rookie deal, 2.545 million. This is why you have a good, really one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. This is not a playoff situation. You could shoot it up. You could numb the pain if you want. Again, as long as there's nothing else wrong with him, and he can play. With a grade 1, he absolutely can play.
Yes.
It's just here's the problem. Now, this is where it becomes tricky. Let's say he only misses 1 game. He feels good, some healing. You have to worry about him getting thrown to the ground. That's always the issue with shoulder injuries, no matter what position you play, whether you're a linebacker and whether you're a quarterback, and he is a right-handed quarterback, it's his right shoulder. What happens when he gets thrown to the ground? You don't know. I mean, you can make it worse. So you got to be careful here. To me, you exercise caution. There's no pressure to play him. And by the way, Eagles playoff scenarios, folks, it doesn't get any simpler than this. If they win, it's all over. Home field through the playoffs, obviously the only bye and division. So it could be a hat and t-shirt game on Saturday night.
Yes, it could be. So getting back to what Q&A said about, and this caused such an uproar on Twitter, I cut the audio clip intentionally to give the full context. The full context. I'm sorry that Twitter only gives me 280 tweets or characters, right? But the full that's why I put the audio, the clip in to the tweet, and it does quote Jason Avant as saying that the Bears were trying to hurt him. He said he wanted to emphasize that, but he said it. He continued to say in the clip that anybody could listen to that everything the Bears did was legal. It was within. It was not out of bounds. He did not say foul play. He didn't say that they were cheap. He didn't say they were dirty. He just said they were trying to hit Jalen Hurts really hard, which, by the way, they were. And he did mention that the defensive lineman fell on top of Jalen as he was bringing him down. And Quentin Michael added in that same clip, that's what defensive players are supposed to do. So 2 things can be true at once. The Bears were really trying to get at Jalen Hurts, and they were doing it legally and within the rules, which is what Q&A said. And then all the Bears fans got, oh, how can you accuse us of this? And I had forgotten that Ndamukong Suh put a cheap shot on Fields. And I'm sure that Q&A, if they had talked about it, would have said, yeah, that was a cheap shot. It's not like they are soft on Eagles. They've been plenty critical when they have to be critical of Eagles. So I don't know. The Bears fans, I think, were just in all their feelings. But...
Oh, dude, they're mad. But see, like you said, they didn't hit the clip. I get over the 300 comments or so that we got on our ITB Twitter. I would wager that maybe less than 5 of them actually hit the video. And I get it. Look, Ruben will get ripped. Our friend Ruben Frank, when he'd write a piece, the fans would read just the headline and goes, Ruben go, did you even read the story? And they never talk about the story. They just talk about the headline. Well, that's the problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, shoot up with truth serum every defensive lineman on the Bears and then say, hey, would you like to get Jalen Hurts out of this game with a legal hit? They're all going to say, yeah. Which means you want to, and you can't leave the game if you're not hurt. So that's what the point was. They're trying to hurt him.
Anyway, so one thing on the playoff scenario. So you know how baseball have the magic number. The Eagles' magic number is 1. That's literally it. They just have to win 16 week 16, 17, or 18, or the Vikings lose, and that's it.
Yep. And listen, we've spoken to a couple of people that think that of course, you would rather have Jalen Hurts there, but there's a there's a degree of confidence in that building and outside of that building by some that Gardner Minshew can go down to Dallas and beat the Cowboys.
Tell you what, we make our picks Friday. It's something I've been thinking about now that we know Goddard's back. As long as Goddard doesn't have a setback and it is definitely playing him, they wouldn't activate him now unless they thought he'd probably going to play. So unless something happens, he's a setback. He'll be in the lineup, and when we get into the tapes, that Goddard would have killed the Bears. They left so much space in their zone concepts. The Bears, Goddard would have killed them.
Yep.
Now the Cowboys play a lot of man. We're going to preview this Friday, and Jaron Kearse will cover him most likely. He's the tight end guy who's pretty tall, probably the tallest safety in the NFL at 6'4", but Goddard could beat him. But my point is this: with the way that Smith and AJ Brown have gone off, and they're just incredible. Now you get Goddard back, NFL's best offensive line. And by the way, Eagles' best road record in the NFL since last November. The last time they lost was 13 months ago. Think about that on the road.
That's amazing. It's really amazing.
It's the best stat of the season for this team. I still can't believe it.
It truly is remarkable. All right, let's talk about real quick the early word on the Cowboys injuries and sort of the timing for them. Somewhat favorable. Obviously, their right tackle, Terrence Steele, who's playing good football all year long. When he's at right tackle, he's a good player. That's where he belongs, and he's a good player. Tore his ACL, but Tyron Smith is off of injured reserve, and he actually started the last game at right tackle, correct?
Yeah. How about that? And it's crazy. So they split. Tyron Smith played a majority of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason Peters subbed him in, to back him up. And they kept Tyler Smith at left tackle. How about that? Yeah, we'll talk more about that. We'll get an idea of how Tyron Smith looked. And I'll give Jerry Jones credit for one thing. He's almost always wrong on injury stuff. My friend John Hansen, fantasypoints.com, would always say, whatever Jerry Jones puts out there to the media, the exact opposite will happen. But he nailed this one. He said it back in September that despite all the reports that Tyron Smith would not be back to the playoffs, he actually got it right. He was back in week 15, and they scored a bunch of points. But we'll preview Dallas Friday. The other injuries for them, Leighton Vander Esch, unfortunately, has a neck issue. That's what he's had throughout his career. That's why he wears the neck roll, and he's been significant time to neck injuries. We don't know enough about it. They think they're going to have everybody else. Michael Parsons didn't work on Tuesday, but he has an illness, so you'd have to think. Although we should mention Dallas has had some players miss games due to illness this season, but it's still early in the week. I'm sure he'll play. I remember he had 2 injuries when he said in fact, he had an illness one time and an injury, and he still played. I'm sure he'll play. But the other guys are out, and this is partially why their run defense isn't very good. Jonathan Hankins is out. He's on IR due to the right shoulder injury. Remember, they brought him in from the Raiders because they traded for him because the run defense wasn't very good.
Yep.
So that's not good. And Jordan Lewis, their nickel corner's out for the season with his foot surgery. Deron Bland, the rookie's filling in for him. And Anthony Brown is one of their top 3 corners. He's done for the season, towards Achilles a couple weeks ago. So they're a little bit light. They had excellent depth to start the season. They're a little bit down in their depth, so that's obviously a problem for them.
So I think they got Kelvin Joseph out there playing a lot. Their second-year kid who's been trying to develop.
Yes,
and he
got
is
kind of benched, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he hasn't been great. So they were hoping for a lot more when they picked him in the second round, especially in year 2. So it'll be interesting, especially for an Eagles team that has come out throwing this year. And I imagine, and John DiFilippo talked about this, I don't know that you're going to see an entirely different offensive thought process going into the Cowboys game than you've seen all year long. Look forward to previewing that with Cosell and Jason Avant to see what they have to say on Saturday. All right, let's get ready to break down the film. Some really interesting stuff, just fascinating stuff from this game. You and I were excited. I know people were like, the Bears 3-10, but we were excited about previewing it last week because of A, Justin Fields, because B, we have a respect for their head coach. He's a really good defensive mind. Talking about Matt Eberflus, and had a feeling that he would have some curveballs in there, which he certainly did for the Eagles offense, and we'll get into that. First, we're going to tell you to go get your game on at the Gallery Bar Book and Games in Ocean Casino Resort this football season. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on a parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery, go to Ocean, go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's talk about the Eagles' offense against the Bears' defense. So I talked about wrinkles or things that the Eagles may not have expected. Or look, the Bears did a really good job, Adam, conceptually, of when the Eagles wanted to run their zone read plays. And Trey Thomas actually brought this up immediately in the postgame show of dictating Jalen Hurts carrying the ball. The edge defender that often is read in the zone read concepts crashed every single time. They were basically coached to just go. Don't worry. Don't try to play it halfway. Don't try to play the run and the quarterback. Just go, and that'll make the quarterback carry or keep the ball, run to the outside. And then they brought a linebacker around to take the quarterback and then a safety down, and they hit Jalen Hurts a lot because of it. He kept the ball a lot. They hit him a lot. It was a really good, from that standpoint, I thought it was a good game plan by Eberflus.
Yeah, so what happened was they kept the safety down in the box. So see, the way I looked at it, based on what we were told earlier this week, is that they probably came in, and I know it's hard to say this when you look at the Eagles' run calls in the first half, which were basically negligent. I mean negligible, very few run calls. But they saw the Bears decided they were going to load the box up, although Hurts wound up scoring 3 touchdowns. But not a lot of backbreaking runs, if you will. But like Fields had. But the fact of the matter is, they saw, despite the win, they were like, okay, they're playing a lot of single high coverage. You know what we do? We throw the football and we see single high. That's just what you do. Now, I spoke to 3 people who were at the game. They said it was cold as hell, right? In the 20s. But the wind it would vary. It just would vary. That is part of why they threw the ball. I know people are up in arms. I saw our comments on our Facebook group. I get it. But you have to, as a play caller, and I've just talking to coaches over the years, they're really cognizant of the the wind changes. As long cold and manageable wind, you're going to throw the football if you're throwing team. That's just the way it is. If you believe you can do it, you're going to do it. They have such confidence in Hurts, and the craziness is after the shoulder injury in the third quarter, they still threw dimes down. Just because we didn't know this in the game,
right?
We knew he went down. We all saw it, but we didn't, because he was down maybe for 5 seconds. You could see he was wincing a little bit. You couldn't tell if it was just a shoulder or just got the wind knocked out of him. Who knows? Who knew? But I kind of dismissed it when we got to the fourth quarter because they kept having to throw the football. Now, here's what I'd like to know: did he tell the coaches, "Hey, man, maybe he did. Maybe he kept it from him. I don't know."
No, I would imagine that there was some treatment at halftime, as Q&A like to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, no, but it wasn't in the third quarter.
Not halftime. At some point during the game after he got hurt, that they.
But here's my question: but if he was honest with them, why would you have him? Unless he said, "Hey, I'm good. I could do it." I was just knowing that we know now. I'm a little surprised that they kept having him throw the football. I get it. I get that a grade 1 shoulder sprain, which it probably is. And again, it's cold weather. And how about this one? He said his hands were numb from the cold weather. That's another thing. I don't know how the hell he did this. Don't know how he could throw like this.
Well, like Nick Sirianni said, he does some freakish things that normal human beings can't do, and that would certainly be one of them. That throw, the 68-yard throw to AJ Brown, is probably going to be one of those signature moments of the season that everybody remembers, especially because they know he was doing it with his shoulder, hanging off of his body, basically.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed that he was able to do that. And couple notes from very strong league source. So the Bears play a little bit. They're mostly a Tampa 2 team, and they'll play. This game they play more man coverage than they've played probably all season or close to it. But the percentage of how NFL teams count man versus zone, they played more zone than man in this game, but their man percentage over the season was up. Now,
I wonder real quick on that, because I think from what I saw, the Bears look to do a lot of what the Eagles do, where they play that matchup zone, where they are playing man on the outsides and maybe across the middle if it's a certain route, but also zone with their linebackers and interior. So I wonder, do the analytics folks consider that man or zone?
Oh, that's a good question because who are the who so we have PFF, Sports Info Solutions are probably the two analytic sites, right? That
Yes,
chart the man
yes.
versus zone. Yes, because there is man within zone coverage. There's no question about that. But based on an opponent for the Bears that's coming up that we spoke to on Tuesday,
Hmm.
they charted it. They came up with a lot more man. The way that they count man, true man coverage, and it was a lot of single high, which they don't play a lot,
Right.
and it kind of surprised them because Eberflus is an old school zone coverage guy. That's why Alan Williams is with them. Alan Williams is his D coordinator, and they work together for they know each other and they're zone based coaches.
Yeah.
Also in this game, the Eagles played a ton of 11 personnel. I don't know if it's a high for the season, but Watkins played a lot. He
Hmm.
played a lot in this game.
He did. He did. I wonder if that was sort of a response to the amount of single safety coverage that they were seeing, where you want to try to throw those deep overs against that kind of a look, and Quez is good for that. They also they had a lot of screens built in. It was a really interesting game plan for both. I mean, one thing that might have led to that more single high looks than two split safety looks is that, and again, I feel like they were trying to force the issue with Jalen as either a running quarterback or as a runner to only give him certain type of lanes. For example, they did a ton of ET stunts, and to keep they had wide rush lanes, so there were opportunities for Jalen originally to look like he can step up into how he likes to climb and then run through the middle, but then all of a sudden the defensive end would loop back toward the middle, right? So it's like they were almost like baiting him to run and then looping a defender back toward the middle or bringing a safety down. I mean, they were really trying to get as many bodies near him. I'm sure
They did crowd the box.
I'm sure they were expecting that he was going to break a few runs because he's just going to. That just happened, just like Justin Fields. The Eagles did a lot of stuff schematically on him. He still broke some runs, but it seemed like they were trying to at least dictate the path that Jalen Hurts would run and then try to have bodies there if he did. And for the most part, I thought they did a pretty good job. We've seen Jalen run with much more success against other teams before.
Yeah, no, I agree. They crowded the box. They loaded it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they threw the ball because they were like, okay, they don't have a lot of guys in coverage. Let's throw the football.
Right.
This is what they do. I give the coaches credit. Now, I said this on our show on Monday, or actually our post game show. Look, we've talked about this now for 5 years on our show. That building believes in throwing in the first half. We know that. I know others are starting to talk about it as well. That's great. But the fact of the matter is, it's not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
If they can throw the ball, they're going to throw it. Now, but the only thing is, could you mix in Sanders a little bit in the first half?
Mm-hmm.
I just this is it's kind of like the push and pull that they have because they get excited. They see matchups that they absolutely could exploit. Now, I give them credit. Those young corners battled for the Bears, but they're just Smith and Brown just beat them.
Right.
For over 300 yards. But what I just don't understand is, I've always said, okay, this is what I would say when Andy Reid was the coach here. Go ahead and throw a lot in the first half, but could you mix in your running backs? You've got 3 or 4 guys that you have to get them ball a little bit. You can't throw on every down, and they didn't. For the first 20 some odd plays, they didn't run the ball with Sanders. So it's a little surprising, and I know Sirianni owned up to it. I hope he believes it. He's not just saying it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Here's what I suspect, without obviously knowing what's going on inside the play calls.
Sure.
So you said correctly that the Bears normally play a lot of 2 high, played a lot of 1 high against the Eagles. What I notice is that even when they played 1 high, it started off as 2 high and then became 1 high right around the snap.
Yes.
So what Jalen Hurts was seeing a lot of was 2 high right from the start. And normally that tells you want to run the ball, right? Because you don't have the safety in the box. But when the safety all of a sudden starts to come down into the box as you're snapping the ball, then you don't want to hand off, right? You then want to try to keep, especially if the edge defender crashes as hard as the Bears did. So again, I think the Bears dictated it. I think they wanted the Eagles to run and made it look like they were going to play 2 high. And then when it was an RPO, they crashed so hard to make Jalen keep it instead of giving it to Miles Sanders. So when that happens, though, I agree with you. I think what the coaches have to do is see that and say, okay, next drive, 1st and 10, we're going to put maybe 2 tight ends out there, go under center, and just give the ball to Miles Sanders and be bullies for a little bit, just to loosen, just to change the look that they're getting. They're dictating to us. Let's dictate to them. And I thought that.
Hey, and they did that last year. Was it?
They've done
well,
it
I know
at
that
times, even this
completely,
year at times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, I know they changed the offense last year, starting with that Detroit game or the Raider game. Then more, obviously, the Detroit game is where they really changed it. But you're right. There's nothing wrong with putting Hurts under center, and he did well with it last year when they asked him to do it. Sanders did not get a carry until the 4th series until the middle of the 2nd quarter. That's kind of insane.
Yeah.
I don't know. As much
minutes,
as I like
man.
the 4th pass,
18 minutes is a long time to not give the ball to Miles Sanders.
You know, I love the story. I think Jaws, either Vermeil said it or Jaws just recounted what Dick told him. So what would happen is during the 99 season, Greatest Show on Turf, there would just be games where Warner was just going off and they weren't running it. So I guess Vermeil would tap Mike Martz on the shoulder. Hey, Mike, you point to 28, Falk. You know, give him the ball, run game. That might have been a game where maybe Sirianni could have said, hey, Shane, see 26 over there?
Yeah.
He might set a team record in rushing. You might want to give this guy the ball.
You might want to give him the ball. Yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah, they could have done that. They did not. It like you said, it seemed like their answer to that instead was just, well, we'll throw a little more instead. So, but you know what, man?
It worked.
Yeah, like I'm not going to be the guy, and I really dislike when this happens. The Jalen Hurts injury to me is not because they didn't give the ball to Miles Sanders more. And also it's I guess I'm going to slightly disagree with Jason a little bit. He's talking about how the running quarterbacks get hurt, and they do. You know, Josh Allen is a running quarterback. He had an elbow injury this year. Lamar Jackson got hurt this year, but all quarterbacks get hurt. I actually was going through team by team this year, right? Whether you're a running quarterback or a throwing quarterback or a pocket or a mixture like an Aaron Rodgers, they're all hurt. Justin Herbert got hurt. Matthew Stafford got hurt. Aaron Rodgers has been playing with a broken thumb. Dak Prescott got hurt. Like literally, we can go through. There's very few starting quarterbacks that have played every single game this year for their team. Davis Mills got hurt. Russell Wilson has gotten hurt. Who had a concussion? Tua Tagovailoa got hurt. Like you see what I'm going. These guys get hurt. I'm not blaming any Eagles coaches. You don't have to blame somebody just because a guy got hurt. It's going to happen.
So we've talked about this throughout the season when Hurts was started running a lot this season. And I'll just repeat it again. I mentioned the Ron Jaworski stat on Cam Newton. One of the reasons why Cam's career was cut short because of his shoulder injuries. It's the accumulation of physical play, of sacks, getting hit on that shoulder, or Cam, because he's 6'6", it was 250 one point in his life. He would run out of bounds and leave with his shoulder because he thought he could do it. Over time, you're just not going to last, and Cam didn't last. Right. You worry about over the course of Hurts. I don't care how strong his lower body is; it has nothing to do with it. No human being could take the accumulation of hits, of being thrown to the ground, getting hit on your shoulder, getting hit in your chest, whatever. Just over a series of years, you're not going to have a long enough career, and you worry about that. The more you run these guys, it's just the fact of life. And by the way, 20 teams have played at least 2 quarterbacks this season. 20. Yeah,
so there you go. I was just going through. I'm like, wow, Kenny Pickett got hurt this year. Mitch Trubisky got hurt. Who's the Patriots quarterback? Mac Jones got hurt, right? Zappy had gone in earlier. I mean, you're really hard pressed to find a team that has had a quarterback play all whatever games it's been, 14 or 15. Now Carson Wentz, we know, got hurt. So, and then, like I said, there are some quarterbacks who didn't miss a game but are playing hurt, and you can tell. Like Aaron Rodgers has had games this year where you can tell that the thumb that he broke was bothering him. So,
against the Eagles, actually.
Yeah. The 49ers, by the way. I mean, they have 2 quarterbacks.
Jimmy G.
Got hurt.
It's crazy. So, by the way, the value of the backup quarterback has never been higher. The Eagles should thank their lucky stars that they have Minshew.
Yes.
And if I'm them, I'd make him a strong offer. And I know he wants to be a starter elsewhere, and I'm sure his agent will look for that. Because I would think at a very minimum there would be a bidding for his services as a backup quarterback. And I know we're going to update our contract stuff because I know people asked us about it. From our show back in November. We're going to do that during the bye week because we're going to have a little bit extra time. But that's a guy who's indispensable right now. He's so important because of You just never want your number best player. Let's put it this way: Hurts is the most important player. You could argue whether he's your best player, but he's so important, obviously, to their success. You do not want him not being available for the playoffs for any reason. But if for some reason he can't play during the playoffs or something happens, it's more than one game here. You want to have that really good backup quarterback. And Minshew, look, for the Patreon people, you'll hear what D. Filippo says. I mean, broke down his 2019 season in a nutshell.
Yeah, he did. It was a really fascinating breakdown, and sort of excited. It's always now we'll see if he gets to start. This is you couldn't ask for the way the guy is wired and how excitable he is to have a chance to be the clinching guy. In Dallas, heated rivalry, Christmas Eve. It's a pretty cool story. It would have been great if it was Jalen Hurts, obviously, but I mean, there's some uniqueness to this story as well. Anything else? Oh, just from an offensive standpoint, the Bears got a couple of pressures. Again, I think that they did a really good job of picking, twisting stuff. They were constantly on the move, and occasionally they would get a guy through. But in general, the protection looked pretty good for Jalen. For the most part. Yeah.
The other thing that shocked me, and this just shows what confidence in Hurts. It just when you look at last year, you could have never seen this. So they're in that win now. A friend of mine who was at the game said he is almost certain they took a bunch of shot plays. One of the shot plays, he goes, "Man, the wind changed when Hurts dropped back." He's like, "Oh, this is going to be interesting," and he still got it through. Okay, it just shows the confidence that Steichen and all the coaches of input have in this kid. It's just remarkable to me. It's such a 180 from last season when they said, "Oh, we don't trust him to throw the football. We're going to take the air out of the football."
Right.
And now it's like they can't have enough air in football. It's a pretty cool story. And the chapters are just beginning. And it's a damn shame that he got hurt because I would love to have seen him against Dallas, not hurt, and humiliate the Cowboys at home because they were humiliated last week against Jacksonville. They totally choked by 17-point lead. Typical, as Eagle fans are saying on social media, they love it. Dancing on Dallas's grave last. I get such a kick out of the comments when they crush the Cowboys fans, and it's just typical Cowboys. They found a way to blow a 17-point lead when they absolutely had to have that game.
Right. So AJ Brown, by the way, why is he so good of a slant wide receiver? People ask. He's so good of a slant catcher because he's just as good, if not better, as a 9-route runner. And when you're a cornerback, you'd rather get beat to the inside than down the sideline for a touchdown. So because he does both within the games, just like he did against the Bears, corners generally tend to play a leverage that you want to funnel him inside instead of getting beat all the way down the field, which he's done a lot too. So that's why he's so excellent. And then you couple that with the fact that he's so strong. He plays with great pad leverage. He knows how to get right into a corner's, his stem goes right into a corner's hip, and then he breaks so sharply. I mean, to be honest, and this is the funny part again about the Twitter backlash against Q&A. If you listen to the pod, I have never heard those guys talk so glowingly about an opponent as they did about the Bears, especially the secondary. They talked up Jalen Johnson, and deservedly so. Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, they played good games. They did what they were supposed to do. Sometimes the opponent is just better. And Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, that's why they're here, and that's why they're going to be, a dynamic duo for a long time to come. But that Bears secondary gave them work. They lost battles.
Had to earn it.
Key.
Fair way to say it. And I'll tell you what, though, I was talking about Goddard. Because the Eagles, one of the things that we rarely talk about this, we'll talk about it more, but apparently they had so many clear out routes here. You'll see the receivers crisscross or the running guy shallow to take Brown's guy maybe, and they'll see if he follows him, and if he does, fine. But Brown just has to beat the guy 1-on-1. But the Eagles are doing great with those kind of concepts,
right?
Where they drag guys and they create space. And this game, the 10 to 15 yard area was wide open. That's where Brown killed them. Just think if Goddard was playing this game when they played zone, he just would have killed them. And
absolutely.
That's why even though we had to pick the game, I still thought the Eagles would handle it. We talked about Sunday morning when we found out we knew about it Saturday, but we had to talk about when we broke the game down live on Sunday, how we still thought Calcaterra and Jack Stoll, if they're willing to throw it to him, could get it. They weren't the factor they had been in previous weeks. But guess what? It didn't matter because the receivers went for 307. And it's just, and that was a career game, by the way, 181 for Brown, and they were relentless. 24 pass targets, 14 catches. Devontae Smith route running is, no offense to AJ Brown, trust me, it's not. He's a great football player. Devontae Smith is a better route runner. In fact, probably one of the best route runners in the NFL. He's not a Diggs' area yet, but he's getting there. The Reaper, Slim Reaper, is something else. And I just, when they get Goddard back here, and I'm hoping Minshew, because he hasn't worked obviously with AJ Brown, he works with the twos, but hopefully this week. Oh yeah, by the way, Minshew missed Tuesday's walkthrough because he was speaking at Mike Leach's funeral. We should probably mention that.
Yeah,
that's why the.
I don't mean to laugh, but he had a pretty funny line or two in the eulogy speech that he was giving.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, I'll have to watch that. Mike Leach was a hell of a guy. He was a Mr. One-liner, but condolences to his family. But when you look at this situation, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens, because I think Minshew, and listen to DiFilippo talk to us, I think this kid's ready for the moment, and I know how much it means to him because he wants to be a starter elsewhere, to put good tape together. And with this offensive line, and Gardner's an athletic kid. He can move. He doesn't hurt his arm strength, but he can move. He's smart. You know what the craziness of it, don't forget in 2019 is, he went in week 1 when Foles broke his collarbone. He had to go in there and play his ass off. So this kid's ready for the moment. Yeah,
it was like the 12th snap of the season, and this kid's a rookie 6th-round pick getting right in there. Yeah.
And he's super high Wonderlic. He had one of the highest Wonderlicks for a quarterback in NFL history. I think, I don't have it in front of me. It's either between 42 and 44. He's a gunslinger, man. And you saw in that Jets game. I'm going to probably go back and watch the Jets tape. I know that the Jets defense has changed because now they're great at corner. They weren't great at corner last year.
Right.
But I love how you said earlier the Goddard numbers. Yeah, they could beat Dallas, but we need to do a little bit more work on it.
Yeah, he has to be a genius because normal people just don't act like that. So, he's got to have a few screws loose.
Yeah, his gift
is cursed.
No, I think you folks could find this. It might be on YouTube. I know it was on the Jaguars Twitter a couple years ago when he goes in. I think he might have been in a jockstrap or something, running around their locker room crazy. Just, I don't know what the hell he's doing.
He's wired different, man.
He is, but he's a gamer. Well, I guess they hate that comment. They hate that term, gamer.
Yeah,
he's he's just a different cat. He's just different,
Certainly. Speaking of different, you were talking about Mike Leach. May he rest in peace. What an impact he had on college football. Do yourself a favor. If you have not yet seen the video, Google it, YouTube it. You'll find it. Of the time that Mike Leach, I think it was at Media Day for the Pac-12, was asked which Pac-12 mascot would win in a battle royal of all the mascots. And he absolutely indulged in the question and went through every single mascot and weighed the pros and cons of each one to try to figure out which one would survive the battle royal. It is riveting. It's fascinating. It's unbelievable.
What should I search terms? So I'm going to go to YouTube.
Just Mike Leach Pac-12 mascots battle. I'm sure
I'll get it. I can't wait to see this. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, such a great man. It's so sad. Yeah, 61 years old. So offensively, anything left on the bone before we get to defense here?
Yeah, there wasn't much run from a running back standpoint in this game because there really wasn't a whole lot of running backs running. And when they did, there wasn't a whole lot of. It just wasn't It was such an uneven running game for the Eagles, especially.
Yeah.
I did notice there were a couple of times like a blitz because the Bears actually blitzed more than I thought they would. The Eberflus defense is not historically a big blitz defense, but again, they were trying different things against Jalen, and I thought pass protection took a step back from maybe the week before because they had started to do a little bit better. But I think that's because the Bears were kind of coming at different angles and doing things to confuse the protection, which is what a good coach would do. So that's the only thing that really jumped out to me. Other than that, it's not like there were a whole lot of either runs or even catches by running backs, correct?
No, in fact, the Quez Watkins, they just, it's not working with the gadget plays or the runs with Watkins. It didn't work with Rager last year.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing, first of all, you're getting their body turn. They're just not natural running backs or natural runners like that.
Right.
It's just not working. I just give it up. I mean, Steichen's tremendous, but this is the one thing with their offense. I know coaches always think that they can do it. They could, because when you're doing as well as Steichen is doing as a play caller, I mean, I get it. but it's not working. These the end arounds, or they use a decent. We should mention they use some orbit motion. I'll say this: they're in the lower half, well in the lower half of pre-snap motion, probably bottom 10.
Right.
But they do it occasionally, and when they do it, it gets certain looks. So I understand why they do it and what kind of tells they're getting, and it does seem to work a little bit.
Yeah. By the way, anything on the Jalen Hurts interception, the second one, that he was throwing to Quez Watkins, hoping Quez would break to a spot, because Jason Avant sort of absolved Quez Watkins. He didn't like the route concept, and he made a good point, because the deep safety, there's only one deep safety on that play. He was keyed into it the whole time because there were actually no vertical routes on that play. So the safety had nothing to clear him out on that. And that being in the middle of the field where Quez Watkins was running was an easy tell for him. And Jalen did not even kind of look to any other route. He stared Quez Watkins down. So, but on the broadcast, now again, Jay Novacek was a fullback, right? So I mean, what am I talking about? I'm talking about Moose Johnson. He's a fullback.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So maybe he's not the best person to diagnose that play, because he sort of was putting it on Quez, saying Quez ran a bad route. Look, I don't think it was a great route, but Jason, who's a wide receiver and of course a slot receiver, said that really wasn't on him. It was more on Jalen staring it down. But I don't know what Jalen's supposed to do if Quez doesn't come out of that break a little.
I know. I listen. I trust Devon. If he says this, no offense to Moose. Moose Johnston with the neck roll number 48, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm taking Jason's word for it. Look,
sure.
He's the expert. He played. No, look, live. It's like you have to make a decision as a color analyst, and Moose had to say what he saw. I mean, we all saw it at home. We're like, wait a minute, why did he? They were clearly off on the play.
Yeah.
And honestly, Hurts. People are saying like he played. This is his worst game. He didn't play well. I don't get that at all. It wasn't his A-level game. I don't. We didn't talk to anyone who said he played poorly.
No, poorly. No, he made some incredible throws. I mean, forget the AJ Brown one. We know that, but like the opening drive where he rolls to his right and he hit Devontae Smith right out along the left sideline. I'm sorry, he rolled to his left and he threw it as he's sort of going out of bounds, and he hits Devontae. I mean, that ball was so well placed for a guy throwing on the run. I watched it like 7 times in awe of it. I couldn't even believe it. it was almost an afterthought by the end of the game.
Okay, so one more thing before we move to defense, because I know it's out there about the MVP stuff. We talked about it before. I don't agree with this. Just because let's say he only misses one game, right?
Yeah.
Why would that preclude him from being the MVP?
No, that shouldn't preclude.
Yeah, I don't understand this. Like, maybe start thinking, because if there's no like rule on this, right? For I don't know. We don't vote for AP, but I vote for Pro Football Writers and one other one. It's now I know that lately Mahomes is carrying the Chiefs. Their defense is really falling apart. He's been amazing.
Yes,
it's going to be really hard for me. I just got to do a lot of research on this to be fair about it. Call it down the middle. But this idea, if Hurts only misses one game and he obviously plays well when he comes back, how the hell are you taking him out of the MVP race? It just isn't right. I don't agree with that.
There's got to have been an MVP in recent history that missed a
I'll look
game,
it up.
right?
I'm taking this seriously. When we vote for the Pro Football Writers one, it's like, is that the one that's super long? Like,
yes,
yeah. But I give them credit because it's really professional and they go through a lot of different awards that the AP doesn't do. And I just want to be fair about it. And it's not, another thing, it's not it has nothing to do with how talented a guy is. It's about performance based.
Right.
I don't care who's the most talented quarterback. I care about performance. This is where I've gotten to this quarterback position. People kill certain quarterbacks because they're not as talented as others. Okay, that's your business. Give me performance. Okay.
Yeah.
This kid Hurts has been lights out. No one thought he could be this good.
Yeah.
And we are where we are. So celebrate it. Don't knock the kid. And this, see, the other thing is that we tried not to get into this, but this idea that it's not just the system quarterback stuff. Like, okay, well, you can put a lot of quarterbacks in here if they're protected with this offensive line. What people are forgetting is Hurts didn't make these throws last year. Do you realize that if you're going to kill the kid, can you go back to last year when he wouldn't make these throws?
Right.
Same offensive line. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's it. I'm
yeah,
off on
that's I don't know if people are searching for reasons not to. I sort of am trying so hard lately, especially to just keep that noise, whether it's social media or some stupid shows on some stupid networks where guys screaming at each other. Honestly, I'm sort of just kind of like in a meditation state lately where I'm just like, I know what I know.
Yeah,
I don't need people
I
yelling at
know.
me to influence my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
just want to be fair about it because
yeah,
I'm gonna I think if you and I fill it both out, I would like to read it on the air where we
sure,
went.
sure.
Are we doing one for the website? You and I and Andrew to check
Yeah,
on?
we'll do it. We'll do that at the end of the year.
Okay,
That's a good
I
idea.
like to. I yeah, because I'm just really curious because I'm real curious where the AP poll goes, and it's
Hmm.
gonna be fashion because I don't. Again, the reason why I brought this up is because I don't know what the rules are. Is if you miss a certain amount of games, you can't be an MVP or you can't win a certain award. I don't know that.
Yeah. Well, you know what we'll do during assuming the Eagles get the number one seed and then they have that bye in one of our podcasts during that bye week. I'm going to go back and find our preseason picks, not just division winners, but awards,
Okay.
and go through it. And we'll
Oh, I'm
we'll pat
scared. I
ourselves
have no
back on the
idea.
good ones, and we'll make fun of ourselves for the like. I picked the
I'm missing
Chargers
on
to go to the
Denver. I
Super.
know that. What's that?
I picked the Chargers to be in the Super Bowl,
Oh,
and
did you?
now they
Wow,
are
they're playing
making a
better lately.
surge, making a
Hey,
surge.
where do they move in our power rankings? Hell yeah.
You should check out Adam Caplan's latest power rankings on InsideTheBirds.com. The Bolts are moving up, baby. And listen, I think they might get Rashawn Slater back before the end of this year. They got Bosa
Well,
back.
yeah, they
Are they going to get the cornerback back,
no. They're going to
Josh?
get Bosa back. He hasn't played yet. Joe
No, right.
Mickey's
They're
not
going to
playing.
get Bosa back. Right.
Yes, he's getting closer. And I think it's because they're playing the kid who Jamari Sailor at left tackle. He's more of a guard right tackle.
Yeah.
But and Darren James has been hurt. Look, JC Jackson was terrible before he got hurt. It's too bad he tore his patella.
Mm-hmm.
But and I know they've been at home, but they beat some really good teams.
Mm-hmm.
They got Mike Williams back from his high ankle. They are super explosive.
Keenan Allen
Oh,
now
they're
back
yeah,
and
oh
actually
God,
staying on the field. Yeah.
yeah. For knock on wood for fantasy people,
Yeah.
I would pick up Minshew for fantasy because I know the staff a little bit, just the way they think. You talking to people who work with them and know these guys. They're not going to hide Gardner Minshew. They're not doing that.
Nope, they will
Doing
not.
that.
Great segue, not fantasy, but Mojo. Mojo is building the sports stock market where you can invest in your favorite players, Adam. You invest in what you know. You know all about the NFL because you watch it every, 4 days a week now. I mean, you're watching it all the time. You're watching the Eagles. You're watching all the other teams, whether you got Red Zone, like Adam watches, or you're just watching NBC and Fox and all the other games. So turn that sports knowledge into real money with Mojo. It's the sports stock market, real stats, real values. Buy shares that entitle you to a guaranteed payout that is based on career ending stats. There's no off days, no off season. These share prices can rise and fall constantly in real time based on career long projections. Cash out anytime you want. Build a huge portfolio. Buy and sell on your terms. Every play, every game, every season, and take advantage of the multiplier. See, the multiplier helps for quarterbacks. Like, let's say you want to buy into Tom Brady, okay? Because again, this is all based on career-ending stats, and Tom Brady's going to finish with with the greatest stats ever, right? If you buy into Tom Brady, it's expensive, but if you hit the multiplier, get yourself 2, 4, 6 times the investment, even the little incremental spots he goes up over the next year or two. Because listen, Tom Brady, if he wants to play, he's going to find a place to play with a lot of weapons. All right. I wouldn't trust Tom Brady to have 2 losing seasons in a row or 2 seasons like this. So if you still think you can build on it, hit the multiplier and just multiply your investment there. It really works. So as we mentioned, over 300 skilled position players from running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. And Mojo's available in New Jersey on iOS. Just by downloading the app, you get a chance to win up to $10,000 in free shares of player stock. Just click the link in the description box of this podcast or YouTube video for a chance to win up to $10,000 in free shares of player stocks. Got to be 21 or older and physically located in New Jersey to trade on Mojo. Have a gambling problem? Help's available at 1-800-GAMBLER. And like we tell you all the time, just because it's only available in New Jersey doesn't mean it's not going to be available in your neck of the woods if you're not in New Jersey sometime in the near future. So you want to get a head start. You want to understand how these values rise, how they fall, what the strategies are. So just download Mojo now so that when it does come to your state, you're ready for it. You're prepared to start making your money. Now, Gardner Minshew, Adam, I think is a really interesting guy that you might want to be on in Mojo, because quarterbacks can get you the most because they're quarterbacks. You know, their values can go through the roof once they become starters. We know he's up on the last year of his deal. I'm sure, like you said, the Eagles will probably try to bring him back, even if it costs a little bit of money there. But there might be a team that says they want Gardner Minshew to try to contend for a starting spot. So we know that around the league, there have been so many injuries and so many teams that need better quarterback play. Why not buy low on Gardner Minshew right now before this Dallas game and hold on to him until after the year? See what happens. See how the offseason impacts him.
Ready for this? Houston doesn't know who the quarterbacks is next year. The Colts don't know. Let's see, who else does not know who their starting quarterback is? Tampa does not know. But
Falcons?
Falcons technically don't. They hope it's Ritter. They don't know that.
Yeah, can't tell.
Bucks don't.
Sure.
But Washington doesn't. Bucks don't. The Giants don't. Daniel Jones, they didn't pick with fifth-year option. Wow, there's a lot. Tua, they got to pick up his, and I guess I'm sure they'll pick it up.
They're going to pick up, yeah.
You would think. But man,
how about the Patriots? Do they know that Mac Jones is their quarterback, or Bailey Zappi?
I think Bill. No, definitely wouldn't be Zappi. Bill's got to come to. He's got to come to the mistake that he made, and say he never should have used his two lieutenants coaching quarterbacks. It just didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Patricia is a defensive guy. When you bring when you spend a first round pick, look how well he did last year with Josh McDaniels. Mac Jones is a rookie,
mm-hmm.
and look at his regression this season. How do you not find someone who's developed quarterbacks before? It's absurd,
right?
Absolutely absurd. I don't get it. So, I'll look. Anything's possible. It's Bill's call. He's personnel control, but man, they get it right here in Philly, and other teams get it. Bringing guys who've developed quarterbacks. What the hell are you doing?
By the way, I'll give you a really good spot that I think that might be interesting for Minshew.
Okay.
Under the assumption, barring some miracle.
I got another one. Go ahead.
This is only barring a miracle. Barring a miracle that Cliff Kingsbury does not get fired.
I knew you were going to say that.
He runs the air raid, a version of the air raid offense. Yeah. Gardner Minshew has flourished in that offense, and we know Kyler Murray is probably going to be not back by September. And,
it'll be hard.
It'll be very difficult. He may have to start, whoever plays quarterback for him may have to start the first 5, 6, 7 weeks. And
that's the one I was thinking of. Sure.
And think about it. If you're Minshew and you're there and you're 5-2, theoretically, after 7 weeks, do you think they're going right back to Kyler Murray with how they feel about him? No, probably not. So, I'm just saying there's a chance there. I'm spitballing.
Yeah, no, I would be, before we get out of the Mojo talk here, that's a player that, did his stock go up this week? I mean, it had to, obviously.
Who's that? Gardner Minshew?
Minshew.
I will check in a second on that. I don't know if it's because he didn't play. I don't imagine. But
you can't go
up this week.
So you can't invest in a backup player for next year because it's a.
Oh, you can buy a share. I'm just saying I don't know if his price moved any by not. Oh,
because I would be buying shares. Yeah, I mean, because particularly if the Eagles clinch this week, I mean, how much incentive would they have to play? I mean, obviously you don't want Hurts to be rusty because he's going to have 3 or 4 weeks off.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to probably play him at some point when they think his shoulder's okay. I would hate for him to have to go into playoffs being off for 3 or 4 weeks. That's a little risky.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. By the way, Trace McSorley up 37% simply for throwing 2 interceptions and just 95 yards. That just shows you what the expectations were for Trace McSorley. So that's an interesting one. Brett ripping up 6% from his 1 touchdown, 1 interception performance. We got all these guys, backup quarterbacks. They're all over the place. So, take advantage. That's our recommendation. We like Gardner Minshew as a guy that could potentially be a starter in this league and surprise some people. All right, let's talk about the Eagles defense versus this Bears offense. Man,
they abused them. It was something else. I mean, honestly, I know they give up a lot of yards and plays to Fields, but remember they 7 Riddick had him. He had him, and he just got out of his grasp.
Yes.
They didn't have to blitz. We kind of knew that going in. The Bears' offensive line's awful. That happened. They stunted the hell out of it. I didn't count the stunts, and no one who I talked to has counted them. But Eagles have been doing a lot more stunts lately, and the timing is so. I mean, it's like, I don't know who. I know Tracy Rocker's the D-line coach, but I don't know who puts together their stunts. But man, they are really good at it.
Yeah, this is what's really cool. We've been talking about the Eagles doing more of this lately over the last few weeks, and they really did it against the Bears, and they almost did none of it for the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season.
True.
To the point where when they started doing more stunting and twisting a couple of weeks ago, it really stood out, even though it wasn't like all the time. It would just be occasional, but it would jump out. And now it seems like they're doing it with a lot more frequency. Again, I think they did it for the same reasons that the Bears were doing it to them, is that when you stunt those ends or tackles out, you keep the quarterback kind of funneled into the pocket and then wanting to move up, and then your ends, which are faster players, right? They're the ones stunting in and getting a chance to get a lick on the quarterback. So it's a good strategy. But I saw some like 2-gap stunts where you'd have like Josh Sweat lined up over like almost in a wide 9 and then almost coming through the right of the center, like the A gap. So that's like you're going B, then A. So they're really, I love what they're doing up front. And by the way, Andrew DeCecco wrote a really good story on InsideTheBirds.com earlier in this the week. And Hassan Reddick was very praiseworthy toward the guys you were talking about, Washburn, Jeremiah Washburn,
Jeremiah Washburn,
Grayson Rocker, for what they're doing. Apparently, they're really in charge of the stunting and all the line games that have been going on. And Reddick was he made sure to say, look, we're all good here. Like we don't need a scheme to get sacks, but what they're doing is coaching us really well and putting us in position to perform well.
Oh, just amazing. Reddick is. See, here's the thing. It wasn't like he was bad. He was fine playing solid football earlier this season.
Mm-hmm.
But he's so exceptional right now, and he and Sweat has been great. Sweat probably won't make the Pro Bowl because not enough of the media locally, nationally knows, and most fans who don't follow the league closely won't know anything about Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat's one of the top 20 DNs of the league right now. He's phenomenal.
And I thought he played really the best game of all those guys. And I thought he had the best game of all the guys we talked about because he was great in run defense too.
Yes, that's what I was going to get to. And by the way, Reddick is not terrible in run defense. He's not bad in coverage. The little he's asked to do it, that's been a pleasant surprise.
Yep.
Reddick is one of the fastest DNs of the league. We talked about this on our pregame show. If you didn't see it, you and Cosell were talking about his hands. His hands are tremendous. He's a hands and speed guy.
Yep.
Who did he embarrass badly? Was it Alex? I call him Plastic
Leatherwood.
Wood. Yeah, I call him Plastic Wood. So bad.
That was that's not going on the Alex Leatherwood highlight reel. That performance.
It turnstile. He literally Olayed him. It was terrible.
Yeah. And you want to know who can join Alex Leatherwood in the there should have been a hotline for the abuse.
Well,
Cole Kmet was suffering at the hands of trying to block Josh Sweat.
And then Riley Reef got beat. Who beat Kmet badly? Which one
Sweat.
was it? Sweaty.
Sweat just many times, by the way. And by the way, it's sort of not a fair matchup, although that's why Eagles fans should appreciate someone like Dallas Goedert, because Dallas Goedert can block. He is not going to get embarrassed. He may lose his leverage at times in pass pro. He's not usually kept in pass pro, to be honest with you. But in the few times that he is, he's a good blocker.
He's phenomenal, actually.
Cole Kmet, it's probably not supposed to be his thing, but I'm not quite sure why. I guess when you lost Tevin Jenkins, the Bears did a lot of extra man protection, Adam. They did a lot of 13 personnel, a lot of 12 personnel. And then even if they were in, like, say, 11, they would keep the running back and the tight end in to block. I felt bad for Justin Fields because a lot of third downs, you only had three-man routes to really throw to. And you're trying to throw three-man routes against a team that doesn't blitz, right? So the Eagles basically have 7 to cover their 3. That's pretty tough. That's why Justin Fields is running for his life every play, because who's getting open when you have 3 versus 7, and your 3, by the way, are like Dante Pettis and Cole Kmet and somebody else. It's just
Velus Jones played who had a terrible fumble.
Yeah.
I would be surprised they benched him again. He had the awful fumble against Washington, that awful Monday night game.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's another one. You got to protect the football. That's going to crush him. Look, I'd say this: if Goddard had played in this game, I think they score 45 to 50 points. As long as Hurts doesn't turn the ball over, their matchups. The Eagles coaches are so exceptional in understanding matchups.
Mm-hmm.
They go, here's what the tape shows us. The numbers could say one thing, but the tape shows you another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going after those young kids. And then defensively, their front against that Bear offensive line was a major mismatch. And the coaches dialed up the T stunts and the just the way that the way they did those stunts, man, were something else. They've become like one of the better stunning teams. They just don't do a lot of it.
Right.
And I'm so anxious to see what they do against Dallas's offensive line, which is good. Obviously, it's not the Eagles' stratosphere, but they've had some changes over the last couple of years. I'll be interested to see what they do against Dallas.
All right, a few more things before we get out of here. We want to direct your attention to our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto, so make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com. And let's pause for a minute to hear from our other great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you happen to stop in at Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal.
Sure.
Not a whole lot to talk about from a back end standpoint, but Kevon Wallace did wind up starting and playing some safety, and he tackled fairly well in this game. I thought he did a decent job.
Yeah, what they did is because they knew that the Bears receivers couldn't win. He played a lot inside, and yeah, he knifed in there. He did because the thing is, like, even on the TV copy, you could just tell he didn't make it. I mean, he tackled well. He didn't really make any mistakes. He used him a specific way. We understand he's a backup, and that's, people have asked about him. Let's put it this way: Blankenship's a better football player already for the injury. He's basically a fourth or fifth safety. That's what he is, unfortunately. They overdrafted a box player. He's not good in coverage. He's not comfortable with it. And it's just they panicked in 2020 when Jim Schwartz wanted a safety, and they took him higher than his grade. And this is what happens. When you don't go by your board, like the last years, they've done a good job of sticking by the board. It happens with every team, not just the Eagles. It seems to bite you in the butt, so to speak, when you don't go by your board. Because there's just a reason why you have guys lower. Why would you take a guy 2 rounds lower? I get that the quarterback's a different story. You'll see that with Foles in 2012. They took him higher than their board because it was Andy's call. He's like, we're taking a quarterback after they missed on Russell Wilson. Okay, so this is what they did. They did it with Davion Taylor well before his grade. And look, it just gets you when you don't stick by your board.
That draft, man, Jalen Hurts has really saved it, because if not for Jalen Hurts, it would be a disastrous draft. I mean, Jalen Reagor's not here. Yeah. Then you got Hurts. Then you have Davion Taylor, who's on the practice squad. And, despite all that speed, when they needed somebody to bring up for special teams, it wasn't him. It was Christian Ellis. So that tells you how they feel about him right there. 4th round was Kevon Wallace and Jack Driscoll, 2 backups. One of them, I would say, Wallace is a disappointing backup. Well, they have confidence in Driscoll to go out there and spot start if need be. 5th round was Hightower, no longer with the team. 6th round, Quez Watkins, definitely a hit there.
That's a hit.
Definitely a hit.
Sure.
And I want to say 7th round was the pass rusher, right? That wound up not making the team and going to Washington.
Oh, was it the kid from Stanford? Was that 2020?
Was it Casey Tuhill? Was that the one?
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you in about 5 seconds.
I think that was him, right?
It was correct. Good call. Great call. Yeah, he was 233rd player taken.
Yeah,
he still plays for. Yeah, how about that one? Casey,
yeah, he plays
for Washington. Wow,
he plays. But if not for Jalen Hurts, how bad is that draft looking?
And we don't want to get people hot and bothered, but we've said it 1,000 times. I know some people don't agree. They took him to be Wentz's backup. It's crazy how it's worked out. We've talked, for those of you who've been with us forever, you know the story, but there's just some people refuse to believe it that Hurts was drafted because they knew Wentz would get hurt and they would want to wind up trading him. Sure, okay.
Sounds like a good story. Let's go with it.
No, but the end game, look, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. They're both here. They're lucky. He's good. Very good, matter of fact. And it's just a wonderful football story. This whole the Eagles offseason was just we outlined a couple shows ago, all these players that they wanted, and a lot of it would have turned to sand, but be careful what you wish for. They didn't get those guys. And the other guys that they got were like all good. Sometimes you just It works out.
Yes. Real quick, forgot to mention, Milton Williams continues to quietly play well. And by the way, we don't talk about this nearly enough. Two things. They're related.
Okay.
One, Linval Joseph. What a signing. To pull him off, he is their starting nose tackle, not because Jordan Davis's injury, because he's the better player right now. And Adam, I don't know if you talked about this with anybody or intel, but something I observed is that there were more than a handful of snaps where they played Joseph and Davis in the same line formation.
He's playing a three.
Three technique. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a lot of man in the middle there, my friend. That's a lot of
Joseph. I did not. There's no way to know this. That this could happen. He's playing more snaps every week now. He played over 50% of the snaps, which is stunning.
Yep.
Stunning. I thought I assumed maybe stat percentage, maybe 30% of the snaps. No, I get it. Chicago doesn't throw the ball very much, and they knew that with Fields and Montgomery, okay. But what a great story. And I highly encourage you to see our friend Dave Spadar's interview with him from a couple weeks ago. It's on the Eagles website. It's just a great interview from his background and growing up overseas and just kind of his rise to here and how badly he really wanted to be here. He wants to get another ring. I guess he got one with the Giants.
Right.
When after he was drafted. But yeah, boy, it's and obviously they had good intel because of Gannon and others who worked with him or knew him. But he's been a great. You're right. Good call. And Milton Williams also in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so fascinated to see what they can do with this thing. I know Joseph's on a 1-year deal, so Sue.
Mm-hmm.
But Joseph of the two of not that Sue's been bad, he hasn't been, but Joseph for what they asked him to do has been terrific.
Yes, absolutely. What was I going to say? I mean, the Cowboys traded a 6th-round pick, which is it's just a 6th-round pick, but they traded a 6th-round pick for Jonathan Hankins. Meanwhile, Joseph is on his couch at the time. The Eagles just call up and say, "Hey, you want to come play?" He says yes, and what a difference he has made because it's one thing to have come in and supplied the tourniquet when Jordan Davis was out with the ankle sprain. It's another thing to have actually stayed as the starting nose tackle in the 5-man front because you're just a better football player right now than Jordan Davis. That's to be the fact that he was on the street, sitting at home for all that long and could still just play at that level is pretty impressive. So good job by the Eagles. Really smart by them to do that. I'm sure they didn't even think that this was going to be the case.
I was going to say, I don't think anyone had any idea. And obviously he's a true professional. You don't know when I hate to even bring this up. You weren't in this market then, obviously, because you were much younger. But when the Eagles got, I think his name was Pat Ryan. Was it Pat Ryan, folks? I can't remember, the quarterback of the construction site under Richie Kotite. He was a quarterback, but you just don't know when you're getting these guys if they haven't played football in a while. Like when the Eagles were bringing Tim Houck back, that was Andy's guy from Green Bay, number 45, who wound up being a coach for them. But for depth in their early playoff years, you just don't know if the guys have been in training camp. Plus, because Joseph was a big guy, you just don't know about kind of shape he was in. He actually was down in weight. He looked good, and it's they got it going on, and they disposed of the Bears. The game was really. Oh, one thing before we get out of here, I don't know if we talked about this after the game. Maybe we often do this sometimes when games get a little hairy for the Eagles, but I never really felt that they were going to lose this game. I know because Fields did a great job of coming back after he had a hamstring spasm, whatever it was.
Yeah,
came back to finish the game like he did, and he made it close. I never really felt they had a chance to lose. I just never felt, although it was a 5-point game, that they were going to lose.
Yeah, me neither. I did not feel that way either. I just didn't think Chicago would be able to score another touchdown if they needed it. I just didn't think that they could. So, and they didn't. All right, that was a really good episode. Really enjoyed that. That's going to be it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.